afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of On the Clock with Personal Living Alert. I'm David. I'm with Personal Living Alert, and today we're speaking with Janis Blenden. And Janis is a sociologist, and her company is A&B Counseling Services. Good afternoon, Janis, and how are you today?
I'm good, David. Good to see you. Thanks
Yes.
for having me.
Now, listen, pleasure's all mine. Janice, I like to start these little conversations off with just getting to know a little bit about you and your background and why you got into the senior market.
Okay. Well, I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I got my master's a long time ago. I'm not going to tell you how long ago. It'll give away sort of my age.
About three.
I got my master's in social work, and actually, my master's thesis happened to be on the at the time younger worker, older client relationship. So, because my second year field placement happened to be at a place called JASA, the Jewish Association for Services to the Aged. So, I really wasn't initially that interested in seniors. But one of my positions over at, after I got my master's, one of my positions was I worked in a nursing home in New Jersey. And I was actually on the Alzheimer's unit. And so it sort of threw me into a situation that I thought was very frustrating, but at the same time very rewarding if I could make a little bit of a difference in people's lives. So I continued really down here in a number of different areas, in particular mental health. And so I got into the senior market because somebody once said to me, with children, they haven't really formulated a lot of memories. But when you work with seniors, they have a whole history behind them and a whole sort of memories that you can unlock. And that stuck with me, and they're my passion.
That's beautiful. It really is. Now, today I wanted to ask you some questions, not specifically about COVID, because everybody seems to be talking about that, but about some of the impacts it can have, like isolationism. I want to go first. I want to start off with the general population, not, what's it like for, anybody to be stuck inside for 8, 10, 12 weeks?
Well, it produces for everybody really a lot of anxiety. I mean, I'm sure you've felt a lot of anxiety, a lot of pent up frustration, a lot of anger, a lot of and not knowing where to put that anger, because where do you go? If you're stuck inside with your family, sometimes that can be a good thing. But you have to, if you're stuck in a 1-bedroom apartment, it's not such a good thing.
You
Um,
get to know them
but
very well.
yes, yes, it's true. And then you sort of, if you look at it on the one hand, is you sort of get to know them all over again, because you go your separate ways every day, right?
Yeah.
And you come home at night and then you sort of go to bed. So you're not really getting to know that person all over again. And unfortunately, I think the divorce rate has gone up because people might see that they don't really have much in common anymore, or, something like that, right? But a lot of people are feeling that our normal lives are finished, are gone. And you see with the protests that are going on, I think a lot of that pent up frustration is in the streets. I mean, I don't know that most people are going out to protest because they really believe in the cause. But I also think there's a second part to it where everybody has been at home and they said this gives them a legitimate reason to be out.
Right. Oh, that makes sense.
Especially in New York City.
Yeah. Well, you watch these protests are in all 50 states, so I think it's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
Now, you and I both work within the senior community in different aspects. I know that. So, what do you think? How are the seniors handling isolationism?
They're having a very difficult time with it. And so that's why my services are now able to do them telephonically, and also telehealth for those folks that have a computer or are able to FaceTime me. So I'm able to do that. Medicare has increased its capacity, so to speak, because they knew that the seniors are going to be the hardest hit, because we don't want to, a lot of them don't want anybody coming in. A lot of us don't want to, put them in in the more vulnerable position. And of course, all the assisted living and independent living facilities are closed down to visitors anyway. So they're having a very difficult time,
Actually,
and very.
yeah, that was actually going to segue into my next thing, because sometimes I think about, my folks, they live in a 55 and over community that is not in independent living. It's just a 55 and over community. And I know those guys feel isolation one way, not being able to get out and see people. But I like where you were going and touching on the assisted livings and the independent livings
Yeah.
and memory care facilities that are in shutdown. And my understanding, and maybe until now, and I know you and I are here in Florida, but we're talking about the entire US where some of them are opening up. What about isolation if you're in an assisted living or a memory care unit or something like that? What do you think is going on there?
It's awful. It's awful, to put it mildly. It's awful. I have um, one lady that fractured her ankle yesterday or over the weekend, and she's in one of these facilities, and her son actually just moved back to New York from being here, just left, and she fractured her ankle. She's in tears because she can't have me come. Her son just left, and even if he were here, he wouldn't be able to visit. So she was feeling isolated and unnerved before. And so now, even more so, she's in pain. She's by herself. I mean, fortunately, she's not on the one sense, it's okay because there's people at the facility that will come and check on her. They'll send an aide there to help bathing her and things like that. So if she were in her own apartment, it might have been a bit harder in one
Right.
sense, but she can't have any visitors. So she is beside herself. It's very hard, and it's not opening anytime soon.
No, and in the assisted livings, part of the allure, I mean, because some of these places are spectacularly beautiful, is the socialization. You're having your meals with friends, you're playing mahjong, canasta, they got movies, they got different things.
Exactly.
Now you're stuck in your room, and everything that you went there through no fault of your own has just been taken away. That it has to be devastating.
It's devastating. And some people are sneaking out to go
Really?
into other apartments, and they shouldn't be, because then if they get caught, it, it's like it's like being in detention. So if they get caught, they have to isolate completely for 2 weeks and not come out.
And what about folks in the memory care unit? I mean,
If
I do the work.
it depends on what stage they're at. If they're in a stage where they're sort of at the end stage of Alzheimer's or dementia, then I don't think it really makes that much of a difference to them. If they're in the beginning stages, that might be a really difficult thing, because they know what's going on the one hand, but yet on the other hand, there are times they're not understanding why or what's going on. So that's probably more difficult. So it depends on what stage they're at. And again, they're normally locked in.
Yeah,
In
exactly.
normal circumstances, they're locked in anyway, but they don't have the activities, and they certainly can't navigate FaceTime or a computer. So it's a very difficult situation all the way around, and they've been the hardest hit in this physically as well.
Yeah. What tips, anything that you can tell anybody on how to stay sane when you're in isolation for an extended period of time?
A couple of things. If you can get outside and go for walks in the fresh air, of course, that's easy, or exercising in the house. But what's really kept me sane is Zooming with people.
Really?
This with friends who I haven't had contact with in a long time. Since we're all stuck inside, nobody is going their separate ways. And as a matter of fact, I had a virtual ladies' night out. We did it twice, where we all
Really?
had our wine, and our friends who I usually go out with, I can't, although now things have opened up, but at the beginning of this, is
Sure.
these Zoom calls have been life-saving. It's as if we're together, It's as if I'm in the room with you, David.
It's not like a tease, like, I could see that piece of chocolate, I just can't get to that piece of chocolate.
You have your own piece of chocolate in the cabinet in the pantry, right?
That's true, but I mean, like, your friend's there, but you just, you know,
Isn't
blocks
it
away.
that? But better than hearing their voice.
Yeah,
I think
that's
there's
true.
something to be said. And you get to laugh with everybody. And when you're on a phone call, you're really not on with more than one person at a time.
Yeah.
So that if if there's four of you or three of you, so that's sort of, I think, keeping people in touch, able to see people who I haven't seen in a long time. And that has really kept me sane and helped. And I've also made a structure for myself every day. And structure is when you're home all day. And when this first started, you didn't really have a structure. You just
No.
didn't know what to do or where to go or how to do it. But I bet you have you've structured your day now, haven't you?
Yes,
Much.
and the more this has gone on, like the first 2 weeks, nobody did anything. You got up at noon in your underwear and you didn't do anything. Now as time's going on, even though we're not out and about, we're still doing our best to conduct business or
Exactly.
maintain friendships. And
Exactly. What's interesting is the first 2 months, because I can do my work telephonically, I wasn't really getting a lot of referrals. Now I'm getting 3, 4, and 5 a day
night,
in the past 2 weeks, because I think people are becoming more and more anxious and isolated and saying, you know what? I need to talk to somebody. I
yeah.
need to have that therapeutic ear.
Uh,
So,
no, I agree with you, and it kind of goes into what I was going to ask you next or talk about is, how do you recommend people cope, or is there any coping mechanisms when you going outside for the first time in 10 weeks? I find it to be a little unnerving. So does my wife. We went out about a week and a half ago on a Saturday night. We went down to Las Olas and we walked around, and then we ate outside at a pizza restaurant, and we couldn't wait to leave. We couldn't wait to get back in the car, get back home. My wife, she's there like, next time we go out, I'm bringing my own silverware, my own paper plates,
oh,
and, I don't know. I mean, listen, what's the norm going to be? I mean, are people going to be apprehensive? Is there a way do we ease in? What do we do?
yeah, I think that's, I haven't been to a restaurant yet. And I was thinking about venturing out next week because I enjoy going out to eat. And I'm just like you or your wife, where I think to myself is, why do you go out to a restaurant to eat? To relax, to
Yeah,
unwind, to not feel stress. And then you're feeling completely stressed. But what's interesting is I've spoken to some colleagues who have gone, and they said they were surprised, just the opposite of what your wife felt, that they felt comfortable doing it. So maybe it was the restaurant you chose, and maybe it was being on Las Olas Boulevard instead of like a freestanding restaurant somewhere. I don't know. Um, but between the protesters and having to get around them and then having to get around COVID, it's like you don't know what to do. So I think it's almost a mindset that you have. So you start off, it depends what you've been doing, right? So, and what's opening. And so I think for people is maybe not to go out so quickly. Wait and see. I would suggest to get maybe to the next phase. See if we have an uptick and an increase. I'm watching the numbers all the time, although you never know who to trust and what to see and what's right.
exactly. I mean, today they say,
But
5 minutes later, they say something totally different.
right, right. So I wanted to wait until we opened the restaurants for 2 weeks, which I think we're just about 2 or 3 weeks. and I want us to gauge and see what if there's an uptick. But I also read on Sundays, the Sun Sentinel had, for restaurants in particular, 17 different restaurants in Broward and in South Palm Beach that they felt were the safest to go to. And what they did is they put out what that particular restaurant is doing. That made me feel really good.
You know, that's very interesting. And again, you and I are down here, hotspot city, right? Broward, Palm Beach County.
Right.
Mike, my two boys live up in Jacksonville. There's nothing going on over there. You don't need to wear a mask anywhere, not into a supermarket, not into any, there's no way. I mean, not even to restaurant, the servers need to wear a mask in a restaurant, but that's it. And that's not even always written in stone. So it's also interesting to me what different parts of the country are doing and how they're interacting. I mean, it blows me away a little bit sometimes.
I think they've scared us.
The numbers haven't changed, but I looked at the numbers the other day. We're still getting in Florida over 1,000 a day on average for the last week. So the numbers aren't going down. I think which I'm not saying it's changing, but I think humans, and you could tell me if I'm right or wrong on this, I think humans, we're social people by nature, and we need to be with other people, not just your spouse or if you got a couple of kids at home. I mean, you really need to be out and about. And I think we're just getting stir crazy.
We are. We are. Just going to your local Publix isn't just going to cut it all the time, right? But my work really helps me because I get to talk to my people every day, 6 days a week, that I've been working with for all this time. So it's sort of, it sort of helped me. I was just on before you, another Zoom call actually with one of my folks, and it's sort of, it for some reason, it helps me. It helps me.
That's great, because I was going to ask you, how are you keeping sane? I mean, it's very, like I said, nowadays, it's easier today than it was 3 weeks ago because we
March,
it's open to us, right? But I mean, it's not easy.
It's not easy, but I think the structure definitely helps. So I have, if you structure your day, which I think you've done, and we've all done in the last 4 or 5 weeks. If you structure your day, it seems as if you're working from home, and you're not. It's not that bad. Once you have that structure, I think that we all need that structure. And what happened at the beginning of this is it just was, what do we do? There's nothing going on. Who wants to watch, General Hospital?
So many shows you can watch on Netflix, I tell you that.
Always so many shows. And of course, exercising and always getting fresh air, which you can do. And you were able to throughout this. And the weather when we started was beautiful. Now it's a little bit too hot. So I think structure is what it's all about.
So what do you think the future is going to be like? And when do you think you're going to be comfortable embracing the life that you used to have?
Probably when there's a vaccine.
That could be a year away.
It could be. And I'm a frequent flyer. I go internationally, and I love concerts. Love going to concerts. I had to give up 3 of them that are rescheduled. I love travel, and I love conferences, and I need to be at conferences. I like to network with people. So I don't know what normal will look like. I think, David, what our normal will look like is probably what we're seeing now in this next phase, where movie theaters were going to be distanced, bowling alleys or whatever it is. We're going to have this social distancing for a long time to come. And I think we're going to have to wear our masks for a long time to come. And I think wearing a mask on an airplane, a lot of people have always done that. I don't know what air travel is going to look like, but certainly wearing a mask couldn't hurt. So I think what we're in right now is going to be our normal for a long time to come.
Okay. Well, Janice, I truly appreciate having you on today.
And thank you, David.
Yeah, I feel better about a lot of things because I know on a personal basis, my wife and I have been going through some of the anxieties that we touched on, and so I'm sure if I don't think I'm the only one. So I mean, if I'm going through these, I'm sure other people are also. So if anybody anywhere had a question, how can somebody get in touch with you?
Sure. Well, my website is ab-counseling with one L.com. My phone number is 954-609-0022. And by the way, the whole country can call me. Anywhere in the country. All it is you need traditional Medicare, and there's no fees attached to it at all. Medicare covers this benefit.
All right, fantastic. Well, I just want to say thank you for being on, and I truly appreciate it. And was hopefully our paths will cross sooner than later. And stay safe.
Yes, you too, David. Thank you so much for taking the time with me today.
Enjoyed it.